You idiot! How dare you quit your job and block the cards? Who's going to pay my mortgage now? And who's going to support my son? He's unemployed too, shrieked the mother-in-law. But she couldn't even imagine what I would do next. And before I begin, I'll ask you to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and enjoy listening. Lisa sat in a cafe across from her office, writing out the final lines of her resignation letter on a sheet of paper. The pen glided confidently without corrections. She reread the text, folded the sheet in quarters, and put it in her bag. The cappuccino had gone cold, but she hadn't even touched it. Outside the window, October rain drizzled. People hurried about their business, and for the first time in many months, Lisa's head was absolutely clear. Her phone vibrated. An unknown number. Lisa answered and heard a woman's voice introducing herself as attorney Sandra Morrison. The conversation was about Aunt Zoe, her father's older sister, whom Lisa had last seen about 10 years ago at some family celebration. The aunt lived in Tulsa, alone and withdrawn, barely communicating with any relatives. The woman on the other end of the line informed her of Zoe Patterson's death 3 weeks ago and that Lisa was listed as the sole heir. A 2-bedroom condo in downtown Tulsa and a small bank account, about $40,000. She needed to come, process the documents, and enter into the inheritance. Lisa hung up and leaned back in her chair. A condo in another city that no one knew about. Neither her husband Derek nor his mother Barbara. She looked out the window at the gray sky and suddenly felt something click inside. This wasn't just a gift from fate, it was an exit. Lisa finished the cold coffee and was getting ready to leave when a conversation from a neighboring table reached her. 2 women in their 50s sat by the window, one complaining to the other about her daughter-in-law. Can you imagine? She supported him for 4 years. My Owen kept saying he was going to interviews, that he'd get a job any minute, but he had an arrangement with a friend. That friend worked in HR, would call periodically and put on performances over the phone. The daughter-in-law heard these conversations and believed her husband was trying, but he just sat at home all day playing video games. How did she find out? She accidentally met that friend on the street, thanked him for calling Owen for an interview, and he had no idea what she was talking about. Everything came out. She divorced him within a month. Lisa froze with her bag in her hands. Derek had been without work for 5 months now. Layoffs, he said. They disbanded the department. Since then, every morning he got ready, left supposedly for interviews and meetings with recruiters. He'd return 3 or 4 hours later, tell details about what questions they asked, that they promised to call back, and not a single job offer in 5 months. She left the cafe and headed to the office, but her thoughts were nowhere near work. Lisa held the position of financial analyst at a construction company. Salary $210,000 plus quarterly bonuses. It was precisely her income that fully supported their life these past months. Rent $4,800, utilities about $800, groceries and other expenses another $5,000 minimum. And there were regular requests from Barbara for help. Sitting at her desk, Lisa turned on the computer and logged into her bank account. She and Derek had a joint account where she transferred money monthly for current needs. Usually she didn't check expenses, trusted her husband, but now something made her open the transaction history. The first thing that caught her eye were regular debits to gaming platforms, Steam, PlayStation Network, Xbox. Amounts of $200 to $300, but frequent. Lisa scrolled further. Subscriptions to streaming services, several at once. Food orders from expensive restaurants. Home delivery during work hours when she was at the office. Over the past 2 months, about $4,000 had gone to entertainment. While she was economizing on lunches and walking instead of taking Ubers, Derek was spending money on games. The phone rang. Barbara, her mother-in-law, called 3 times a week, and each time the conversation ended with a request for money. Lisa, dear, hello. How are you? How's work? Hello. Everything's fine, very busy right now. I understand. Listen, I have a problem. Remember my neighbor Nancy? She urgently needs surgery, gynecological. She has no money at all. Small social security check. I promised to help her. $3,500 is needed. Lisa closed her eyes. A month ago, her mother-in-law had asked for $2,800 for replacing plumbing. 2 months ago, $3,200 for medicine. Before that, $4,000 for cabin repairs. Each time she promised to return it. Never returned it once. Barbara, I really can't right now, but I'll bring it this evening. All right. Oh, thank you so much. You're just saving us. Nancy will be so grateful. Lisa hung up and looked at the time. 3 p.m. If she left early now under the pretext of a client meeting, she could manage to visit her mother-in-law before she was expected in the evening. Just to check. 40 minutes later, Lisa stood at Barbara's apartment door and rang the bell. Her mother-in-law opened, clearly surprised. Lisa, you were coming in the evening. The meeting nearby ended early. I decided to stop by. Lisa entered the apartment. Barbara looked perfectly fine. No concern about the neighbor's problems on her face. On the kitchen table lay an open laptop. Her mother-in-law quickly closed the lid, but Lisa managed to see an online clothing store website. On the screen was a designer coat for $1,200. Where's Nancy? Maybe I should give her the money directly. Barbara was confused for a second. She's already in the hospital for examination. Better give it to me. I'll take it to her tomorrow. I see. Let me come in the evening then, as we agreed. I still have errands to run. Lisa left without giving her mother-in-law time to recover. In the elevator, she took out her phone and called the county hospital information line. She gave Nancy's name, clarified the surname with the doorman downstairs who knew all the building's residents. There was no such patient at the hospital. The neighbor's surgery was another lie for money for a designer coat. The next day, Lisa decided to check another detail that had long troubled her. Derek said that before the layoff, he worked at a large tech company as a software engineer. 5 years of experience, good projects, excellent recommendations. The layoff happened suddenly. The company was relocating to another state. Some employees didn't agree to relocation. Lisa found the address of that company in her husband's emails from a year ago, took a few hours off, and went there. The office was located in a modern business park on the city outskirts. She went up to the right floor, approached the reception desk. The security guard politely inquired about the purpose of her visit. "Hello, I'm the wife of Derek Mitchell. He worked here until recently. I wanted to pick up his things that he forgot in the office." The guard frowned, opened some program on the computer, entered the surname. "Sorry, but we don't have such an employee in the database. Maybe you confused companies." "No, definitely here. Mitchell Derek James, software engineer." The guard shook his head. "The database has all employees for the past 10 years. Such a person never worked here. Maybe he was a contractor, but then they wouldn't have allocated him an office." Lisa thanked him and left. One word pounded in her head: lied. Derek lied about work. Maybe he never worked there, which means there was no layoff either. But then where did the money for life before their wedding come from? Or he worked somewhere completely different and lied to seem more successful. More and more questions arose. In the evening, when Lisa returned home, Derek was sitting in the kitchen with his phone. Hearing her steps, he raised his head. "Hi, how was your day?" "Fine. Very tired." Lisa went to the bathroom, washed up, changed. Derek stayed in the kitchen. She heard him saying something on the phone, then laughing. Returning to the kitchen for water, she noticed he had left his phone on the table and gone out to the balcony to vape. Lisa wasn't someone who rummaged through other people's things, even her husband's. But now too many things didn't add up. She quickly took the phone. There was no password. Derek never locked the screen at home. She opened the messaging app, found texts with his mother. Messages from today. Barbara wrote to her son. "Son, I told her about the neighbor surgery. I think she'll give. You understand, I don't have enough for the spa package. Spa package, not a designer coat. But the essence was the same, a lie. Derek's response made Lisa go cold. Mom, just be careful. She's been suspicious lately. We don't need the money hen to stop laying eggs. Money hen. Lisa quickly took a screenshot of the messages and sent it to herself by email. Then she scrolled through the chat further. Messages from a month ago from her mother-in-law. Son, when will you get a normal job? She'll start asking questions soon. Response. Mom, I told you I'm fine as is. Why strain myself if I can live comfortably? I'll find something later when she really starts nagging. The balcony door began to open. Lisa put the phone back and quickly took a glass, poured water. Derek returned, noticed nothing. She drank the water and went to the bedroom, sat on the bed and just sat for about 10 minutes, digesting the information. The whole picture came together. Derek wasn't looking for work at all. He deliberately dragged it out, lived on her money, and his mother helped him in this. Moreover, they both treated her as a source of income that needed to be carefully milked. For 5 months she believed, supported, economized on herself, and he simply used her. The next day, Lisa got up earlier than usual. Derek was still sleeping. She got dressed and left the apartment quietly so as not to wake him. On the way to work, she stopped at another bank branch, not the one where they had joint accounts, and opened a new account in her name that her husband would have no access to. The consultant processed everything in 20 minutes. At the office, Lisa worked as usual, but in parallel thought through the plan. In the evening, she called the attorney in Tulsa, clarified details about the inheritance. Documents could be picked up in 2 weeks. The condo would be cleared of the deceased aunt's belongings another week after that. Total, 3 weeks. During this time, she needed to organize everything. Lisa began transferring money from her main account to the new one, in small amounts of $1,000 to $1,500, so as not to arouse suspicion. Derek had access to the transaction history of the joint account, but she always kept her personal one separate. Every day, she transferred a bit more until $30,000 had accumulated in the protected account. That would be enough for the first time. In parallel, she began quietly taking her things from home. Nothing noticeable, only the most necessary and valuable. Documents, photographs, jewelry, favorite books. She put everything in a large bag and took it to her colleague Victoria, with whom she'd been friends for many years. Victoria was the only one who knew about Lisa's plans and fully supported her. "You're doing the right thing," she said. "People like that can't be allowed to use you. They won't change." Lisa didn't tell details, only general strokes. Victoria understood everything anyway, offered to store things in her storage unit for as long as needed. A week passed, then another. Derek suspected nothing. He still left the house every morning, supposedly for meetings and interviews, returned by lunch, talked about new job openings, employer requirements, how hard it was to find a decent place. Barbara called every other day, but Lisa began saying there was no money now. She needed to wait until the bonus. Her mother-in-law was offended, but didn't insist strongly yet. One evening, Lisa sat in the kitchen with a laptop, pretending to work on a report. In reality, she was studying the rental market in Tulsa, looking at prices and neighborhoods. She could live in the inherited condo, but it needed repairs, and for the first time it would be better to rent something suitable, or actually move in there immediately. She'd decide later. Derek came out of the bedroom, approached the refrigerator. "Listen, let's go to Mom's on Saturday. She invited us to the lake house. Barbecue, relaxation." "I can't. Report is urgent. Need to close the quarter." "Work again. You should rest sometimes at least." Lisa raised her eyes to her husband. He stood with a juice bottle in hand, looking relaxed, content with life. A person who hadn't worked for 5 months was advising her to rest. She held back a sarcastic comment. "Next time for sure." The next day, an event occurred that finally convinced Lisa of the correctness of her decision. She was returning from lunch and saw Derek on the street. He was walking with two men. All three were laughing, looking relaxed. The time was about 3 p.m. Lisa slowed her pace, watching from afar. They entered an entertainment center with bowling and arcade games. Lisa waited about 5 minutes and also went inside. There weren't many people in the facility. She quickly found Derek with the group. They occupied a bowling lane, ordered beer and nachos, chatted cheerfully. One of the men said something, and Derek roared with laughter, slapped him on the shoulder. This was the interview, the meeting with a recruiter, the job search. Lisa left the center before they noticed her, returned to the office, and couldn't concentrate on work for the rest of the day. In the evening, Derek came home as if nothing had happened. Said he'd been at an interview at a startup, but the project didn't work out. 3 days later, Barbara called. This time her voice was harder, without the usual sweetness. Lisa, I need money. Urgently, $3,000. For what? That's none of your business. I asked. You should give. We're family. Barbara, I really don't have that kind of money right now. How can you not have it? You work, you earn well. Can you really begrudge your family? It's not about begrudging, I really don't have it. But you have money for yourself? Yes, I see you bought a new purse recently. Lisa had bought the purse 2 years ago, but she didn't argue. Sorry, I can't help. Barbara hung up without saying goodbye. 10 minutes later, Derek called. What did you say to my mother? She's in tears. I didn't say anything, just refused the money. How can you refuse her? She's my mother. Derek, I don't have extra money. I'm the one paying for the apartment, food, everything alone. Well, you're working, and I'm currently looking. It's temporary. It's been 5 months already, temporary. What are you reproaching me? I'm trying to find a decent place, not grabbing at the first thing available. Lisa hung up. Pointless. A minute later he called back, but she didn't answer. She wrote a text. I'm tired. We'll talk at home. There was no response. In the evening, Derek met her with silence, demonstratively sat in the bedroom with the door closed. Lisa didn't start sorting things out, had dinner, took a shower, and went to bed. He came to the bedroom only after midnight. Several more days of tense silence passed. Lisa continued gathering things, transferring money, preparing. Less than a week remained before the trip to Tulsa for the inheritance documents. She had already mentally composed the plan, process the condo, file for divorce, quit her job and move. In Tulsa, she could find work as a financial analyst. Maybe the salary would be lower, but expenses there were lower too. On Thursday evening, Derek unexpectedly spoke first. Listen, let's not fight. I understand it's hard for you to pull everything alone now. I'm really trying to find work. Lisa looked at him. He sat on the couch. His face portrayed sincere repentance. Okay. Mom is also worried. She didn't want to offend you. I see. Maybe you'll still help her? At least a little. She really needs it. For what? Derek hesitated. She needs to make a mortgage payment. The next payment is coming up. Lisa frowned. What mortgage? What property? She bought a condo 3 years ago with a mortgage. A studio on the outskirts. Thought she'd rent it out, pay the mortgage from the rental money, but it didn't work out. The tenants moved out, and she still has to pay. Why didn't I know about this? Well, Mom didn't want to bother you. Thought she'd handle it herself. And how much is needed? $12,000. That's the annual payment. Once a year. Lisa leaned back against the couch. $12,000. And she thought she'd just give such a sum. Well, she's family. We should help. Derek, I don't have that kind of money. How not? You have a good salary. You should have savings. The savings went to living expenses the past 5 months. He frowned. So you're refusing to help my mother? I can't give what I don't have. Derek stood up, paced the room. You know, you've become completely different lately. Kind of hard, callous. Lisa was silent. There was no point arguing. She got up and went to the bathroom. She stood under the hot shower and understood. Everything was right, just a bit more, and she'd be free from all of this. The next morning, she woke up with a clear plan. Today's Friday. Monday, I need to go to Tulsa. That means today she'd submit her resignation letter. The director would probably ask her to work at least a week. That's normal. In a week, she'd close all matters, transfer projects to colleagues, and then freedom. Lisa got dressed, had breakfast. Derek was still sleeping. She left the apartment and went to work with the feeling that a new life was beginning. In her bag lay the resignation letter written a week ago in that very cafe. The work day was just beginning. On Monday morning, Lisa got on the flight to Tulsa. Derek didn't even ask where she was going. She said it was a business trip for 2 days. He nodded and returned to his laptop. The city greeted her with gray skies and a damp wind. The law office was located in an old building downtown. Sandra Morrison turned out to be a woman of about 60 with an attentive gaze. She laid out documents on the table, explained the procedure for entering into the inheritance. The condo was clean, without liens, no debts. The bank account could be accessed a month after processing the certificate. Everything was simple and clear. Lisa signed the necessary papers. The attorney handed over the keys to the condo. The address was in the downtown area, a mid-rise building from the 80s. Lisa took an Uber there, went up to the 3rd floor, opened the door. The smell of old age and mothballs hit her nose. The condo required serious cleaning and cosmetic repairs, but the layout was good. Windows faced a quiet courtyard. Livable. She spent an hour there, examining rooms, assessing the volume of work. Then she locked the condo and went back to the airport. On the plane, she took out her phone and began searching for lawyers specializing in family law. Found a firm with good reviews, made an appointment for Wednesday evening. Returning to the city, Lisa came home late in the evening. Derek sat in front of the TV with a can of beer. How was the trip? Fine. Very tired. She went to the bedroom, lay down without undressing, closed her eyes, and thought that in a few weeks all of this would be behind her. On Wednesday after work, Lisa went to the lawyer consultation. The office was located not far from downtown, a small office on the 2nd floor of an office building. She was met by a woman of about 50 in a business suit, who introduced herself as Jennifer Williams, seated her at the table, offered coffee. Lisa declined. She briefly outlined the situation. Husband hasn't worked for 5 months. Lies about job searching. His mother constantly demands money. There's proof of deception. She wants to divorce and move to another state. Needs to understand how to properly process everything. Jennifer Williams listened attentively, occasionally nodded, then asked several clarifying questions. The apartment you live in, whose name is it in? Lisa's. The lease is old, signed before the wedding. No community property. No. Everything was bought with her money. Receipts and statements are saved. No joint debts. No. Children. No. The lawyer leaned back in her chair. Your case is quite straightforward from a legal standpoint. Property subject to division essentially doesn't exist. There's no prenuptial agreement, so community property laws apply. But since everything was acquired by you and there's documentation, there's nothing to divide. File for divorce. In most states, the process takes a few months. Can he demand something? Theoretically, he could try to claim he contributed to household expenses. But if you have proof to the contrary, the court will be on your side, especially if he hasn't worked officially these past months. I see. Another point. Before filing, secure your finances. Close access to all accounts. Transfer money to new ones he doesn't know about. After filing, attempts at manipulation and pressure may begin. Be ready. Lisa nodded. She'd already been transferring money, but not all yet. Jennifer Williams looked at her seriously. And most importantly, don't tell them anything until you're ready. Let them think everything's under control. Otherwise, they'll have time to prepare, come up with countermeasures. The element of surprise is your advantage. Lisa left the lawyer with a clear understanding of further actions. She paid $1,000 for the consultation, but the money was worth it. Now she knew what to do. The next day, something unexpected happened. Derek returned home in the evening with a joyful face. Guess what? They finally hired me. Lisa raised her eyes from the laptop. Where? At a tech company. Enterprise software development. Salary $140,000. Starting in a week. He looked inspired, even hugged her. Lisa feigned joy. That's great. Congratulations. I told you I'd find something good. Just needed time. What's the company called? Tech Plus Solutions. They're new on the market, but promising firm. What will you do? Develop internal systems for banks. Interesting project. Lisa nodded, listened, asked questions. Derek eagerly told details, clearly enjoying the moment. Then he went to call his mother with the news. The next day, during lunch break, Lisa found Tech Plus Solutions contact information online, called the main number, introduced herself as a bank employee, said she was verifying employment for credit application purposes for Derek Mitchell. Needed to confirm place of employment. The receptionist politely responded that there was no such employee on staff. Maybe he's not officially hired yet? No. In the hiring plans for the next month, there's no such name either. Perhaps you mean a different company. Lisa thanked her and hung up. Another lie, not even thought through properly. Derek didn't even bother to make sure the company really existed and would accept his story. He just named the first thing that came to mind and decided it would work. In the evening, he continued the performance, talked about future colleagues, the office tasks. Lisa agreed, asked clarifying questions. Derek didn't notice anything wrong. In a week, when he was supposedly supposed to start work, he'd surely come up with a new excuse. The company downsized, project canceled, something else. But Lisa wouldn't be here by then. On Saturday morning, there was a knock at the door. Lisa opened it. On the threshold stood Barbara with a tense face. She entered the apartment without even really greeting. We need to talk. Derek came out of the bedroom. Mom, hi. What happened? Son, I have a serious problem. They went into the living room and sat down. Barbara took some papers out of her bag. I urgently need to make a payment on the mortgage. $12,000. The deadline is in 5 days. Lisa frowned. What mortgage? Her mother-in-law looked at her as if the question was stupid. I bought a condo 3 years ago, a studio on the outskirts. Thought I'd rent it out, pay the mortgage from rental money, but tenants moved out 6 months ago. I haven't found new ones. But I still have to pay. Why didn't I know about this? Why would you need to know? These are my affairs. But now you've come for money. Barbara straightened up. Your family. Family helps each other. Or will you refuse in such a situation? Lisa looked at her mother-in-law, then at her husband. Derek sat silently, eyes down. I need to think about it. What's there to think about? A person is in trouble, needs help. Or do you begrudge it? It's not about begrudging. Then what? You have a good salary. Lisa stood up. I'll think about it and answer later. Barbara snorted indignantly but didn't argue. She gathered her things and left, slamming the door. Derek remained sitting on the couch. Will you really refuse her? Lisa looked at him. I don't have that kind of money. You work, you can take out a loan. To pay off her mortgage? Well, she's my mom. We can't abandon her. Lisa turned and went to the bedroom, closed the door, sat on the bed. Everything was boiling inside, but outwardly she remained calm. $12,000 for someone else's mortgage that was taken out secretly without her knowledge, and now they demanded it as their due. She took out her phone and wrote to Victoria, asked if she could leave a few more boxes of things. Victoria answered immediately, Of course, come whenever. The following week, Lisa began actively moving things out. Every morning, she packed a large bag with clothes, shoes, cosmetics, left early while Derek slept, returned in the evening light-handed. He noticed nothing. His bedroom had become his world. He spent most of his time there at the computer. What happened in the rest of the apartment didn't interest him. By the end of the week, Lisa had moved out almost everything important. Documents, jewelry, photographs, favorite books, clothes. Victoria allocated half of her storage unit for boxes. Everything neatly organized, labeled. All that remained was to wait for the right moment. On Thursday evening, Lisa stopped by the supermarket for groceries, stood in line at the checkout, and suddenly heard a familiar voice. She turned around. At the neighboring checkout stood a woman she'd seen in photos on Daniel's social media, one of Derek's friends. Daniel's wife or ex-wife, Lisa didn't know exactly. Their eyes met. The woman also recognized Lisa and nodded. They left the store almost simultaneously. Lisa decided to take a chance. "Excuse me, I don't think we've met in person, but I've seen you in photos. You're Katie, Daniel's wife." The woman smiled wryly. We divorced a year ago." "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." "It's fine. You're Lisa." "Yes." "Derek's wife." "Yes." They stood at the store exit. Katie looked at her attentively. "How are things with you?" Lisa didn't know what to answer. Katie apparently sensed the awkwardness. "Listen, let's grab coffee. There's a cafe nearby. There's something you should know." 10 minutes later they sat at a table. Katie ordered a latte, Lisa too. They were silent for a couple minutes. Then Katie spoke first. "You know, I divorced Daniel because he didn't work for 3 years. He kept saying he was looking, that he'd find something soon. I believed, supported us alone, and then I learned the truth." "What truth?" "He and your husband and a few more guys, there were 5 of them total, met regularly, played online games, discussed how to manipulate their wives. They even had a group chat. Daniel accidentally left his phone at home. I saw the messages. They shared advice, who got out of what situation when the wife started suspecting. It was a whole system." Lisa felt herself growing cold inside. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely. I then investigated, found proof. They even came up with cover stories for each other. Like one calls and pretends to be a recruiter. Another at that time acts in front of his wife like he's going to an interview. Mutual protection. And Derek was in this. He was one of the most active participants." Lisa sipped her coffee. Her hand trembled slightly. Katie noticed. "You suspected something?" "Yes, but I thought it was just him. Didn't know there was a whole group. They're all like that. Wives work, bring money, and they sit at home and have fun. And they also complain about how hard it is for them, how difficult to find work." Katie took out her phone, scrolled through saved images. "Look, these are screenshots from their group chat. I saved them for the divorce proceedings." Lisa saw the messages. Group chat participant names: Daniel, Derek, Aaron, Greg. Max messages about how best to look tired after a supposed interview, how to appear upset after rejection, what excuses work better. One of them wrote, "The key is to periodically bring home job posting printouts. The wife sees I'm trying and doesn't pressure me." Derek replied, "My wife doesn't check at all. So convenient." Lisa handed the phone back to Katie. "Thank you for telling me. I just thought you should know. When I found out, no one told me. I lost 3 years of my life. I don't want others to go through this." They finished their coffee and exchanged numbers. Katie wished her luck and left. Lisa sat for another 10 minutes, processing the information. So it wasn't just Derek's laziness. It was a deliberate strategy he shared with others like him. They taught each other how to deceive wives, how to live at someone else's expense and not feel guilty. She left the cafe and went home. Derek sat in the kitchen with a sandwich, watching something on his tablet. He saw her and smiled. "Hi. You were gone a while." Ran into someone I know got talking. Aha. Listen, Mom called again, reminding about that money. I'm still thinking. Well, think faster. Her deadline is coming up. Lisa walked past him into the bedroom, lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Just a little more left, a bit more patience. On Friday morning, she told Derek there was a company event that evening. Planned late, would return closer to midnight. Derek nodded without even asking details. Lisa left for work as usual, but at lunch took the afternoon off. Left the office, got in an Uber and went home. It was about 2 p.m. She approached the building, went up to her floor, took out keys, quietly opened the door. Voices and laughter came from the living room. Male voices, several people. Lisa took off her shoes, carefully walked down the hall, peeked into the living room. Derek sat on the couch with two men. On the coffee table were beer bottles and a bowl of chips. In front of each was a laptop with a game running. They were playing as a team, talking, laughing. One of the men, Lisa recognized Daniel from photos, said cheerfully, "Listen, Derek, does your wife not realize at all that you're not working?" Derek laughed. "Yeah, she's clueless. The main thing is to complain on time that I'm exhausted from searching and show her some job, posting occasionally. She thinks I'm really trying. Lucky you. Mine near the end was starting to ask questions. Well, you got sloppy. Should have been more careful." Lisa stood in the hall and listened, her hands clenched into fists, but she kept control. She'd heard enough. She quietly left the apartment, went downstairs, got in her car, and drove back to the office area. Spent the rest of the day at the mall. Went to a bookstore, bought a couple new releases, then to a cafe, had coffee read. At 10 p.m., she returned home. Derek sat alone watching Netflix. How was the event? Fine. Tired. She went to the bathroom, stood under the shower for a long time, then went to bed. Derek came an hour later, lay down next to her. Lisa wasn't sleeping, but pretended to be. The next day, she met with Victoria. They sat in a cafe, and Lisa described in detail what she'd heard. That's it, enough. Not one more day. What will you do? On Monday, I'm submitting my resignation. In 2 weeks, I'll close All My Work Matters. During this time, I'll finish processing the inheritance, take the remaining things and leave. And he'll find out at the last moment. Victoria nodded. Right. Let him face consequences for once in his life. On Sunday, Lisa received an email from a company in Tulsa. A month ago, she'd sent resumes to several cities, just in case. A large construction firm responded. They offered the position of finance director with a salary of $230,000. Less than now, but cost of living in Tulsa was much lower. Could work remotely the first 3 months, then preferably relocate. Lisa responded with agreement, asked to start from the 1st of next month. They confirmed. Everything was in place. Job, condo, money transferred to protected account. Things moved out. Lawyer consulted, documents ready. All that remained was to deliver the final blow. On Monday morning, Lisa woke up at 6 a.m. Derek was still sleeping. She got dressed as usual, packed her bag. In it lay the resignation letter written 2 weeks ago in that cafe. She looked at her sleeping husband and felt nothing. Not pity, not anger. Just emptiness where feelings used to be. Leaving the apartment, Lisa went to work. The day was ordinary. Meetings, reports, calls. During lunch break, she went to the director. Michael Stevens was surprised. Lisa, did something happen? She put the letter on the desk, resigning with 2 weeks' notice. The director took the paper, read it. But why? Everything's going well. Your projects are excellent. Personal reasons. Relocating to another state. We can discuss remote work. Salary increase. Thank you, but the decision is final. Michael sighed. Ashamed to lose such a talented analyst. All right, we'll process it. You'll work the 2 weeks. Yes. I'll transfer all projects to Alex and Marina. I'll prepare full documentation. They shook hands. Lisa left the office and returned to her desk. Colleagues didn't know yet. She decided not to announce it until necessary. The 2 weeks passed quickly. Lisa methodically closed matters, transferred projects, compiled detailed instructions, worked even more than usual to leave no loose ends. She told Derek there was a major deadline at work. She was staying late. He didn't object, continued his usual routine. Games, hangouts with friends, pretending to job search. On her last workday, colleagues threw a small farewell. Cake, champagne, well wishes. Victoria hugged her goodbye. Stay strong. You're doing everything right. Thank you for everything. Lisa picked up her final paycheck and personal items from her desk. At 6 p.m., she left the office. She stood at the entrance for several minutes, looking at the familiar building. She'd been coming here for 5 years. Now that chapter was closed. Arriving home, Lisa entered the apartment. Derek sat in the kitchen with his tablet, eating a sandwich. Hi, how was your day? Lisa put her bag on the floor, looked at her husband. Excellent. I quit. Derek raised his eyes from the screen. What? I quit my job. Today was my last day. He froze with the sandwich in hand. His face showed confusion. You're joking. No. Wait. How did you quit? You what completely? Yes, completely. Voluntary resignation. Derek put down the food, stood up. What are you doing? We have rent, bills, expenses. How will we live? Lisa calmly took off her jacket, hung it up. You have rent and bills. I was just living here. What are you talking about? We're married. Derek grabbed his phone from the table. His fingers nervously dialed a number. Lisa heard the rings. Then Barbara's voice. Mom. She quit her job completely. What do we do now? Lisa went to the bedroom, took out her phone, opened the banking app. Derek continued, talking frantically with his mother in the hall. Lisa methodically entered the joint account settings, removed Derek from authorized users, blocked all joint cards, disabled his access to statements. Derek returned to the bedroom, phone still at his ear. He saw Lisa doing something on her phone. Came closer, looked over her shoulder, went pale. What are you doing? What I should have done long ago. He grabbed the phone from her hands. Lisa didn't resist. Derek looked at the screen, scrolled. His face grew paler. You blocked the cards, removed me. How will I? This is my money, my account. You never had rights to it. But we're married. For now. Not for much longer. Barbara was shouting something on the phone. Lisa heard her voice, even from where she stood. Derek pressed the phone to his ear. Yes, Mom. She blocked everything. I don't know. Come over. Yes. He hung up, looked at Lisa with hatred. You've ruined everything. I fixed everything. The next 20 minutes passed in tense silence. Derek paced the apartment, made calls, nervously vaped on the balcony. Lisa sat in the kitchen, drinking tea. Inside was calm, finally. There was a loud, insistent knock at the door. Derek rushed to open it. Barbara burst in, red-faced, out of breath. Where is she? Where is she? Lisa came out into the hall. Her mother-in-law attacked her verbally. You idiot! How dare you quit your job and block the cards? Who's going to pay my mortgage now? And who's going to support my son? He's unemployed too. Lisa looked at her absolutely calmly. Barbara continued shrieking, gesturing wildly. Derek stood nearby, silent. But she couldn't even imagine what I would do next, Lisa said quietly. She turned and went to the bedroom, returned a minute later, pulling 2 large suitcases, set them in the hall. These are your things, Derek. Here's your clothing, shoes, documents. Barbara, here's what you left. Your robe, slippers, toiletries. Her mother-in-law's mouth opened, but Lisa didn't let her speak. She took a folder of documents from her bag. This is the divorce petition. Filing tomorrow. She placed the first paper on the suitcase. These are screenshots of your text messages where you call me a money hen and discuss how to continue milking me. Second paper. This is documentation from the tech company where Derek supposedly worked. He was never employed there in 5 years. Third paper. This is confirmation from Tech Plus Solutions where he supposedly recently got hired. They have no record of such an employee either. Fourth paper. This is a bank statement of expenses from the joint account over the past 5 months. $4,000 on games and entertainment. Fifth paper. And this is the lease agreement for this apartment in my name alone. I signed it 2 years before our wedding. Derek isn't on the lease and never was. He just lived here with my permission. Lisa raised her head and looked them in the eyes. You have exactly 1 hour to take your things and leave, or I call the police for trespassing. Barbara froze for a second, then lunged at Lisa. Lisa stepped back. Her mother-in-law, despite her loud voice, was a small woman. Lisa easily held her at arm's length. Don't. You'll only make it worse. Derek suddenly spoke. His voice trembled. You've ruined everything. We were fine. Why are you doing this? Lisa turned to him. You were fine. You lived off me, lied, manipulated, and I was a fool to believe it. Derek suddenly dropped to his knees, grabbed her hand. Forgive me. I'll change. I'll really find work. I'll be different. Give me another chance. Lisa looked down at him. His face had tears. He looked pathetic. Even now you're lying. Get up. This is embarrassing. Lisa, honey, please, I love you. You love my money. There was a knock at the door. Lisa walked past the kneeling husband and opened it. On the threshold stood 2 large men. She'd asked them to help a week ago. Her brother's friends, former college athletes. Hello. Come in. The guys silently entered, assessed the situation, took the suitcases, and carried them downstairs. Derek jumped up. This is illegal. This is my home. I'm on the lease. Lisa took another paper from the folder. No, you're not on the lease. Here's a copy. Check it yourself. I just allowed you to live here. Now I don't. Barbara breathed rapidly, clutched her chest. I'm having a heart attack. Call 911. Want me to? Only the EMTs will say the same thing that's in your medical records. You have a perfectly healthy heart. I verified it. Her mother-in-law lowered her hand. We'll sue. I'll tell everyone what kind of person you are. They'll fire you, kick you out in disgrace. I already quit. Tell whoever you want. I have recordings and proof of your manipulation. And you. One of the guys returned from downstairs. Suitcases are by the entrance. Anything else to move? Lisa looked around the apartment. Derek, do you have any other personal items? He was silent, fists clenched. Then that's it. You can go. You'll regret this, Derek said hoarsely. Really regret it. The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. Barbara and Derek stood for another minute, then turned and left. The door closed. The guys remained. Need help with anything else? No, thank you. You've been a huge help. They left. Lisa locked the door with all the locks, leaned against it, closed her eyes. Silence. For the first time in many months, silence and peace. She went to the bedroom, opened the window. Cool October air filled the space. Lisa took a deep breath. Free. The next day, she filed the divorce petition. The lawyer had prepared everything correctly. Derek tried calling 20 times, sent texts. Lisa didn't respond, blocked his number and Barbara's. 3 days later, she flew to Tulsa. The condo still needed work, but was livable. Lisa hired contractors, arranged for renovations. Paint, new flooring, updated fixtures. A month of work. While the contractors handled the condo, she rented a small studio apartment in a newer part of town, started her new job, completed all the HR paperwork, received access to company systems. The first 3 months, she worked remotely as agreed. Salary slightly less than before, but in Tulsa everything costs less too. Moreover, soon she wouldn't have to pay rent. Her own place would be ready after renovations. A week passed, then another. Life gradually found a new rhythm. In the mornings, Lisa woke up without that knot of anxiety in her chest. Worked calmly, not worrying about who was draining her accounts. In the evenings, she explored the unfamiliar city, discovered coffee shops, parks, walking trails. One evening, as she sat in the studio apartment at her laptop, her phone rang. Unknown number, but local area code. Lisa answered. Hello. Lisa, it's me. Derek's voice, shaky, weak. How did you get this number? Doesn't matter. Listen, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. I have nothing to say to you. Wait, don't hang up. Mom's in the hospital. Lisa froze. What happened? Her heart. From the stress. She's really bad. The doctors say she needs emergency surgery. And we need money. $15,000. Lisa, I know we messed up, but she could die. You don't want. Stop. Lisa opened her laptop, quickly found the website of the hospital in the city where Derek and Barbara lived. Went to the patient information section. What hospital? County General. Cardiac unit. Lisa found the department's phone number, dialed from her second phone, put the first one on speaker. Derek continued talking, but she wasn't listening. A nurse answered. Lisa identified herself as family, asked about Barbara Mitchell's condition. The nurse checked the system. We don't have a patient by that name. Maybe a different unit. No, I was told cardiac. Hold on. Pause. Oh, Mitchell was seen by a cardiologist 2 days ago. Routine checkup, everything normal. No abnormalities detected. She's definitely okay? Yes. Doctor's assessment, good health. Slight arrhythmia. Doesn't require treatment. Thank you. Lisa returned to the first phone. Did you hear that? Silence. Derek, I asked if you heard. Lisa, wait, look. Your mother is fine. She had a routine exam. No surgery needed. But doctors can make mistakes. Even if it were true, it's not my problem. You made your choices. I made mine. Lisa, you can't be this heartless. Have some compassion. My compassion ended when I read your messages. Money hen. Remember? She hung up, blocked the new number, closed the laptop, and went out to the small balcony. The city was unfamiliar, but no longer felt foreign. Tulsa was slowly becoming home. 3 more weeks passed. The renovations finished. Lisa moved into the condo, brought the things Victoria had stored, furnished the space simply. Couch, dining table, bed, bookshelf. It was enough. Work was going well. Management appreciated her skills, asked her to transition to the office earlier than planned. Lisa agreed, met her teammates, integrated into the culture. A woman around 40, Elena, another financial analyst, invited her to lunch the first day. You're from the East Coast? No, different city. Just relocated. Why Tulsa? Inherited a place here. Seemed like a good time for a fresh start. Makes sense. Liking it so far. Yeah, it's peaceful. They became friends. Elena was also divorced, raising a teenage daughter alone. She understood what it meant to rebuild. Didn't pry, just offered friendship. A month later, Lisa received papers from the court. Derek had filed a counterpetition. He was demanding property division, compensation for emotional distress, spousal support as an unemployed dependent. Lisa called Jennifer Williams, the attorney. Don't worry. He has no case. The property is all yours, documented. Emotional distress claim is absurd given the evidence. Spousal support, he's able-bodied, voluntarily unemployed. The court will dismiss it. And that's exactly what happened. The hearing was brief. Derek showed up with a lawyer, apparently hired with Barbara's last dollars. The lawyer postured, cited statutes, talked about marital obligations. The judge listened patiently, then asked for evidence. Derek had none. Lisa had bank statements, receipts, lease agreements, message screenshots. The judge reviewed everything and issued the ruling. Grant divorce, no property division as no marital assets exist, deny spousal support. 30 days to appeal. Derek didn't appeal. Apparently no money for continued legal fees. A month later, Lisa received the divorce decree in the mail. Officially free. 6 months went by. Winter turned to spring. Lisa had settled into Tulsa. Work was thriving. They'd even bumped her salary to $250,000. She'd made a few local friends, occasionally met them for dinner or drinks. Life was steady, predictable, peaceful. One Saturday, she stopped by Whole Foods, stood in the checkout line, and heard a familiar voice. She turned. Katie, Daniel's ex-wife, Derek's friend. Lisa. Hey. They hugged. What are you doing here? Moved here 6 months ago. New job, fresh start. How is it? Good. Really good. They walked out together, stood by the entrance. Listen, I've been meaning to reach out, Katie said. Remember I told you about their group chat? I do. I showed those screenshots to other wives in their circle. Found out who else was involved. Tracked down their partners. 3 women filed for divorce. 2 more are gathering evidence. We started a support group, text chain, and monthly video calls. Want to join? Lisa thought about it. I'm in a different state now. It's all virtual. You don't have to physically meet anyone. Just support. Okay. Yeah, I'd like that. They exchanged numbers again, updated contacts. Katie added her to the group that evening. The chat had 8 members, women from different cities, different backgrounds. One thing united them. They'd all been used, manipulated, financially exploited by partners who'd weaponized their trust. Lisa read through weeks of messages. The details varied, but the pattern was identical. Unemployed partners, elaborate deceptions, interfering in-laws, financial abuse disguised as family obligation. One woman wrote, "The hardest part is accepting you were never a partner. You were a resource." Another replied, "But we're free now, and we'll never let it happen again." Lisa added, "Don't regret the lost time. We learned. We're stronger. That has value." Gradually she participated more, shared insights, encouraged women just starting to see the truth. It helped, feeling connected to others who understood. A few weeks later, Katie sent a private message. FYI, your ex found someone new. Young, maybe 24. Works retail. He's already moved in with her. Lisa stared at the message. How do you know? Saw them at the mall. He was doing his whole charming act. She was eating it up. My neighbor knows her. Works at Target. Want me to warn her? Lisa considered it. She wanted to spare the woman the pain. But would a stranger's warning be believed? Or dismissed as bitter ex-wife jealousy? No, Lisa typed. Don't. You sure? Yeah. Everyone has to learn their own lessons. A warning from me would just sound like revenge. She'll figure it out. I get it. Just feels wrong to watch. I know, but it's her journey now. Lisa closed the app, stood up, walked to the window. Evening was settling over Tulsa. The city lights twinkled. This place, once completely foreign, now felt like home. Life wasn't perfect. The condo had quirks. The hot water was temperamental. The AC made weird noises. Work could be stressful. Some evenings the silence felt heavy, but it was honest. No lies, no manipulation, no exploitation masked as love. Lisa went to the mirror in the hallway, studied her reflection. Same face but different eyes. Clearer, stronger, free. The new life hadn't promised to be easy, but it promised to be real, and that was everything.